Guys in Oklahoma on historic Route 66 with this 1929 Ford Model A. It's been sitting right here in this old pole barn for many, many years. I want to get this thing running and driving, but this time I'm not going to drive it home. You see, I've already registered this in a Christmas parade locally here. We got 2 days to get this thing looking great, running great, and get in this parade. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's also going to be a lot of work. Let's unbury this thing, get it outside. So there's a couple different challenges with this one. We're going to have to do things a little bit out of order this time. Normally we'd walk around the rig, scan our peepers on it, see what we're in for, and get right at it. But this time we have to get this out of this barn. We're actually in a laydown yard right now, and there's backhoes and excavators and equipment running around and trucks and trailers. We're kind of in the danger zone, you know what I mean? So we need to get this car out of this building right away so we can get to work on it. So I'm going to borrow a skid steer and some forks, move all this stuff out of the way. My buddy Brian's here to help me. We're going to air these tires up, hopefully, get them on some rollers, get it on a trailer, and take it to his house, which is close by. Then we can blow this thing apart and see if we can get this thing running. I don't even know if we got a key, if the engine rotates. I know absolutely nothing about this car. First time I'm seeing it. Right now. It's green. Okay, let's go get some equipment, get this junk out of the way, get this thing out of here for the first time in many years. So we've got all this stuff in the way, some lumber and, I don't know, we got an engine, transmission, and then off to the side is this Ford over here. Nice looking car. I mean, I walked around a little bit. I'm not seeing a bunch of rust or anything. It's a rumble seat, which is cool, so this will open up, and then there's another seat here in the back. Here's the step pad for getting up there. We got the old steamer trunk, so it's got a rack on it somewhere. Spares on it. It's got Oregon plates. I don't really understand that, but there's another car in here I'll show you in a second that also has an Oregon plate. So maybe that's where the previous owner was from. I'm not really sure. Yeah. So this building's been here, I'm assuming, since the 40s or 50s. This is actually an old coal mine. And the coal mine's been converted to like a demolition company that does gravel and all sorts of stuff like that. And these cars were part of the purchase when the current owner bought the property, essentially. There's also this cute little Porsche back here. And it's got a Oregon plate as well. I don't know the story on this rig. I didn't ask, I didn't even know it was here, but I'll see if we can get some more information. I'm going to be respectful and not open the door or anything like that, but pretty neat little rig. I don't know that I'd fit in that. Okay, let's go find some equipment. There's stuff all over. Equipment wise, and see if we can get all of this out of the way. And the plan would be put that on rollers or something, slide it out, and then we got a trailer here, we can throw it on a trailer. Here's our Chariot. We got the old 550 Bobcat, and we got forks on it. We should be able to dig out what we need with this. Super nice guy, he just said go after it, keys in it. So I'm gonna jump in, start moving some stuff. I think I'm going to take it out of the building and pile it over here. Okay, so now the plan is, I don't have one, but we're gonna see if these tubes are still gonna hold air. Get this pumped up, and then we got those things. Friend brought them, I don't even know how to use them, but apparently it's gonna lift it up. We could slide this over, and then we could try to get it onto a trailer. Should be just enough room to sneak it out of here. Okay. Don't know how to, oh, there we go. You just crank it, Liz. See. Maybe? No. That's saying it's, wind's going somewhere. Come on. Tire shot, but it should have a tube in it. There it's going. All right. Rear held air seems to be holding. This one seems to be holding. Working on this one. It's coming around. Woo! It's got an engine. Oh, look at that. Okay.
What do you use the tugging on a jack?
Kickstart this thing. Yes. Yeah. There it goes. Never used these before, never owned them. Pretty handy. Huh. Is this... There we go. One more and we can push her over. Well, we got her out of the shed. Some great news comes with that. None of the wheels are locked up. It rolls easy. I haven't tried the brakes yet, but pretty good chance they're gonna work. These are all mechanical. They run on these levers. But car's in good shape. Seems to be. Strap this thing up, get it over to a different garage, and we can dig in on this thing. Well, as you can see, we've successfully made it to my friend Brian's shop, and big thanks to him for, well, letting me use his truck, his trailer, his shop, and helping me unbury this 29 Ford Model A. We could finally walk around the thing, drink it up, see what we've got. It's a nice looking little car, and I don't see any damage thus far, but we really don't know until we get into this thing. I want to try to figure out when this was parked. It looks at least to be 15 to 20 years. Kind of hard to say, but hopefully we can find some paperwork, documentation, a receipt, anything, just out of curiosity of when this thing was parked and off the road. So let's walk around this thing and see what we got, and then we're gonna jump right into the engine here. You know the deal. We're gonna make sure it spins over. We gotta get sparkles to this thing. We gotta get fuel to this thing. Here it makes some noise, and if it does, I've got some parts here. We'll do some upgrades and things like that. Not a typical drive. We're gonna have this in a parade hopefully here. So it's slow going. Overheating could be a concern. The water pump in these, of course, they're notorious for leaking. You gotta pack them unless you get a leakless pump, which I have. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later, but let's walk around this, see what we got. So it's titled as a 29 and we have the 29 plate on the front and back, but this is a 30 grill shell and kind of looks 30-ish to be honest, but we're gonna just go ahead and call it a 29 since that's what the title says. But we've got spares on both sides. It's got this neat little lock on it. Of course, we don't have the key, unfortunately. Otherwise, I probably would have just threw these on the car. These have wind still. That side's locked as well. Speaking of wind, these tubes are holding. We haven't lost any wind in any of the tires. It's a nice green color. I don't want to dig on the paint too much and scratch it, but we got black fenders essentially, horn still on it. Here's your crank hole for your hand crank. Grill's in beautiful shape. Fins aren't all dented up. A couple here. Looks like probably from the bracketry there. Running boards are solid. Top looks to be in really good shape. Of course, you could see over the years where the rain was dripping through that roof onto the dust and dirt here. Kind of up on the roof there. You got the step pad for climbing in the back. Here's one here as well. So probably left foot, right foot, jump in. Nice rack on the back. Lenses are still in it. It rolls really nice. And I hit the brake pedal. We got brakes on this thing. And that's usually the case with these Model A's because it's all mechanical. It's levers. There's no juice pot or nothing like that. So fuel tank could be a concern for us. It's essentially from this line up and the dash is the tank. And it is a process to get out. And I did hear, I'll shake it. Oh, probably hard to hear, but there is a gallon or two in there for sure. And that's obviously going to be bad. So we're going to want to drain that. It's got this nice little visor on it. That should clean up nice. The top isn't deteriorated, I don't think. There's an 1/8 inch of dust and dirt on this thing. I should be scooping all this up and put it in a bucket. We could throw it on Evil Bay. I heard that barn dust is pretty expensive. Brings the value of these cars right up. It's got these neat little visors or wind deflectors. You can kick these windows out, but it doesn't really give you much airflow. These here, you get the glass open. Now you're scooping some wind. You get that wind injection quite a bit. But solid car. It's been painted, obviously. I think someone's definitely done a restoration on it at some point. Maybe some rust down in here starting. We'll clean this up for sure once it gets running, or hopefully is running. But that's kind of the exterior. No dents, no body damage. Let's jump on the inside and check out the interior. I did roll the window down because it does have a smell. I tell you that. Oh. Now let me go in again. Ooh, flat screwdriver. It's kind of like a football helmet full of asparagus and sunflower seed with just a hint of section line road. Yep, that's what it is. There's so much dirt and dust in here. What a cute little mirror. All right, come over here and look at this. This is one of the nicer interiors I've ever seen in an A in person that was just drug out of a barn. It's pretty incredible, actually. A little tight here. They got the appropriate length on the leather straps so the door isn't banging into the spare tires here. Makes it a little tough getting in and out, but we're gonna make it work. Look at these beautiful door cards. It's got your map pocket, or you know, maybe a cold snack or 12, some beef jerky and nacho cheese, whatever you want. Dirt daubers everywhere in this thing. This is your door handle or latch. Dash has been painted up, but look at this gorgeous headliner. The mice haven't got to it. I don't understand. They're obviously been in here, but they just didn't want to chew on this stuff. Floor's been kicked up, not sure what's going on there. We've got, looks like 58,369 miles, which is a lot for an A, actually. No ignition stick. That could be a problem. We've got the fuel gauge up here. Ampereses, of course. And then we've got throttle, timing control. Obviously the shifter, e-brake, throttle, starters up there. Beautiful seat, hasn't been worn through. And interior by Stylecraft, Oregon. Well, that makes sense because that's where the plate's from. So this car was probably rebuilt or restored in Oregon and then eventually made its way out to Oklahoma. Nice little rear view mirror with a clock in it. I don't think I've seen that before. Nice little ad. Someone painted the window frames and everything on this. It's going to be a nice little car. We got some junk here we can dig through. Maybe we'll find something in that. Unfortunately, sitting all these years, rolled the window down. The rubber has basically congealed and turned into something else, and the glass has pulled that down with it, and it's the same on the captain's side, unfortunately. But we can really fast fix that and just pretend it didn't happen. There we go. Well, right off the bat, we're making money back. We got a channel lock, little guy, but check this out. Old school Craftsman standard screwdriver. Win. Put that down. Okay, so I'm seeing some evidence here. Ooh, the mice got into that. This is very typical for like a 4th of July parade, right? Bunch of flag stuff. I got a badge here. I'm going to save the name. Portland Regional Group. So again, that's West Coast. 37th Annual Scenic Tour, August of 2002. 22 years ago. Here's more flag stuff. Here's a map. Wow. The resort at the mountain. Where is this? Doesn't give me a state. There's a lodge, an East Side complex. I'm guessing this is Highway 26. I'm guessing this is where it was last driven or used. Model A30. Oh shoot, this is all eaten up by mice. So I'm gonna say it was probably a 4th of July event or parade, and we have a year now, 2002. So 22 years, I think that's very likely this car has been sitting. We've got some, look at that old school logo, O'Reilly, antifreeze and coolant. That's really cool. I might have to just hang on to that, I think. We got a wheel chock for some reason. We got a crazy looking diamondy thing. Sure, gems. We got a soaked and soiled rag thing. We got more flaggage. And we got a tray. Used to sit in the back window here. And that's pretty much it on the inside of here, but we can open the rumble seat in the back, see if we have any more treasures in there. Wow, the smell. We also have this flag in the window. That is pretty wild that it was, oh, it's coming off. Wow. It's pretty wild it was used in a parade last 2 decades ago, and we're gonna try to jam this thing in a parade again. But this time, Santa's gonna be there. Well, I hope he is. I got a really long list I gotta let him know about. Let's see if the guy can actually open this up. Oh, that was way too easy. Oh, mouse house. I don't think anything other than a mouse house. Ugh. Just felt hantavirus enter my body. This is more typical for like original style seat covering, where they've done the nice cloth up front. This is more of a vinyl or pleather, and I'm sure they did that because it's outdoors. What happens if it gets rained on, etc. So come look at this. This is pretty cool. So like I say, someone would step here. I'm not going to step there because I'll take that thing clean off and then jump right in the back here. Pretty cool. Until you hit something. Then you got the old Chestolator Remover 500 up there and knock you down a couple feet in height. Or you just take a face full of glass. Safe. Pretty safe. Yeah, this is it. We got a mouse house. No speed holes. Is that a mat? Yeah, they got a rubber mat in there even. This guy, which we'll throw away. But there's no holes in the seat whatsoever. It's completely protected. Pretty wild. I can't wait to clean this car up. I think it's going to clean up really good. I think for now we'll just close this. And we'll come back to that. I'm thankful that wasn't locked because we would have never got it open. Closer look at the luggage rack here. This would fold up. I can't remember which direction. I think it's this way. So you could fold that up out of the way if you want. We're gonna probably try to attach that trunk we found in a box. Had to throw the box away, that was all eaten up. But there should be some leather straps that go around and we can attach that trunk or box on the back. It's where you put your moonshine. No, it's where you put your cold snap. No, it's where you put your clothes. Back there. Speaking of clothes, they also had a neat accessory for these. One of mine has it. It looks like an accordion gate almost, but you would put your suitcase in here and slide this gate, and that would keep the suitcase from falling off the running board, and that's just where you would carry it. So you'd throw your passenger in, assuming you have one, throw the old suitcase later up here, and whoops, lock her in, and down the road you'd go. This here, instead of the temperature gauge on the top, which we often see, is a pretty period correct modification. Just this flying dinosaur or whatever this is up here. Hello? Anybody home? I don't think so. Okay, let's get under the hood and see what's in the power barn. All right. Just making sure this moves correctly. We could chip the paint up. There we go. It's even got the little leather tab on the hood still. We got completage. That's great news. Fuel Make It Happeners here, lightning whirlers in place. Just buried in dirt and dust. It has the old style water pump. The fan has been upgraded. Air filtre has been upgraded. It's still running a generator. We'll have to sneak on the other side to see the rest of it, but everything is here. Exhaust is hooked up. Oil return is there. Timing covers on it. Belts on it. I mean, by all indications, this should have ran 22 years ago. You want to look? Well, get over here and look in there. Maybe we should have washed it first. Really going through the laundry. So we've got a nice little air filtre down here. The Widowmaker fan is gone, the 2-blade. We've got a 4-blade on here. Kind of a modern update. Give us a little more wind as well. We got old Motorcraft sparkulators in there, the old TT10s. And this is your spark plug wire or hose, is just a piece of metal. You can run these off of barbed wire or whatever you need. But we'll be going through the full ignition system here, trying to get this thing fired up. Fuel was turned off. That's good. See the old Ford Motor Company tag. Detroit, Michigan, back in the day. These dirt daubers just everywhere. Whoop, deleted. Sorry about that. Excuse me. It's still pliable somehow. That's good. Wow. Pretty dusty. We might get some wind in here and blow on this engine. Kind of clean that up a little bit anyway. Let's open the other side. Both sides of this hood were unclasped. So someone must have been looking in here at one point. Falconer, remanufactured generator. Starters in it. Pretty good looking motor. I think we might be in luck. It's got the original hardware on the wiring doodabbers. Huh. Here's that label I wiped clean. And this is that hardware I was talking about. Really cool. You just see a nut on these a lot of times. This is the original fastener, I guess you could call it. Here's your timing control. That runs to the column right there. The other one, of course, is going to be a throttle, which runs across and then over to the fuel make it happener. It's got Earl, a lot of it. That's good. There we go. Great. Well, let's start by just blowing all this dust and dirt off of here. And then we got to get to just going through the process. Turn over, spark, fuel, compression, valve timing, boom. Hopefully fires. This is a really nice, clean shop. I feel very odd working here, but don't worry, we're going to fix that right now. There we go. Oh yeah. That seems fine. Don't worry about that. Oh. Yep. Okay. Other side. Dirt dauber. Ah, yeah. Nice. So a guy would sure like to get this hood off, so I'm not folding it back and forth 100 times and potentially scratching the paint and stuff like that. This is missing, but I'm going to fold it over the other way. Hopefully there's some hardware there. I could take this tab off and essentially this whole thing will just pop right out, and then we've got pretty good access. Would also be ideal to get these out of the way, but I don't have any keys to this, and I don't necessarily need to massacre that lock at this moment. I'll just work around it, but let's get this hood off first. Need a flathead, and I just so happen to have my newly acquired one. Okay, there we go. I sure hope I can get this going. I want to do a toy drive in the morning for children, obviously, and then the parade is that afternoon. So would sure like to be going under my own power, not on a trailer with the tow rope. Okay, I need to gently pull that off. Then fold this together and get it out. Let's see, might be able to better grab it here. There we go. So now we got the hood later out of the way. First thing we're going to do right away, because it's going to really determine what we're going to be doing here and what order is, we got to make sure this thing rotates. I forgot my little handy dandy wrench. My buddy Paul made me that slides on the front here, and I don't have the crank. So what we're going to do is just grab the fan, rotate it. The belt seems tight enough. This thing is such low compression, it should rotate it. Ooh, I don't want to bend this. Goodness. Oh. Uh-oh. Now it's spinning. I wonder if I push. Oh. Let me make sure it's not gear. It shouldn't be. No? Uh-oh. Oh, there it went. Squeaky. There we go. See, it's just a little tight. Sitting. Okay. I'm going to stop there. Let's pull the sparkulators out, and I think they got to have some juice around here somewhere. I don't know. We'll pour something down the holes, lubrication, WD-40, anything, ATF, trans fluid, and just let them soak and come around. If it was that tight, it's tight again. There's this, it sticks. That's interesting. So let's get these out and juice it. We got to take this off anyway and inspect it. And that'll hopefully let this thing rotate over easier. The rings will probably eventually come around, but there's something in there that's just preventing it from free spinning all the way through there. Let me grab some wrenches. We'll knock those out. Okay, guys, got a 15/16 here. Nice and loose. That's good. All right. We'll stuck plugs. We are off to a good start. It's rotating-ish. Plugs aren't seized in here. We got all the parts on this bad boy. So we have a lot to celebrate about already. I was trying to avoid taking these off, but I think I'm just gonna make that happen. Whew. Okay. Pretty typical. Very fouled. We'll scan on these things and get the gist of how she was running last when parked. That's darker than my soul. Nice. Last one. There we go. Okay. Found some juice in the cabinet there. With the straw, we can angle it back. Make sure we're actually dropping it into the combustion chamber. I think the very next thing I want to tackle is the fuel, because this tank, if it's all rusted out, I don't know. I don't know that we have time to take it out. There's all these bolts along the front and the back and the struts, and you got this seal. I mean, it's a lot of work. Maybe we could clean it with some marbles or something, and some CLR or some sort of rust treatment. But it's probably going to be a lot easier just to hang a laid a tank up here. And that ain't going to look very good in the parade. But it's all about showing up, right? Right. There we go. So far that's done nothing. Perfect. Well, that's got to soak a little bit. I know. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and take the fuel make it happener all the way off. We're going to have to crack that bad boy open anyway and clean it up and see what we've got going on. Most likely the needle's stuck and everything. And then we'll have better access to the fuel line here. And I might just drop that into the tray, let it run down the drip tray here on the side, and put a drain pan or so. I got to find something. These floors are painted and all nice. Normally I just let it recycle. Can't do that here. And then we'll probably plug this, end up having to take this apart and clean that, and so on and so forth. If we're extremely lucky, we're just going to have bad varnish fuel come out and no sediment or junk, or it's all going to fall into here. I don't know. Time will tell. But let's go ahead and knock this off. Got 2 bolts here. This provision, the throttle, this should just pop off like that. Nice, that's not stuck. This is the GAV, or gasoline adjusting valve. Also your choke. So if you pull it, it's choke. If you turn it, you're actually adjusting the air-fuel ratio. You can fatten it up right inside the vehicle. And we'll go through that once we try to fire this up. These have a very particular starting process. Believe it and or don't. And running the GAV and the choke is one of those that you must know. There we go. Oh, I'll just put that over there. Hetza! Nice. The old karate trick worked again. Just gotta hit them fast on these, what are these called? Line nuts? Otherwise you melt them off. Just for giggles, let's crack this open. Okay, I'll just put that down there. Broken. Check. No fuel. Check. The valve on the inside could also be turned off. Haven't even looked, to be honest. Okay. She is coming free. We're going to have to inspect the timing gear here. We're going to be setting the timing. This has a pretty cool process. I wish they would do on today's engines. And what else are we going to do? Probably change the water pump to a leakless updated style, so we don't have to mess with that. The last one I drove home, I think 750 miles, I had to pack the water pump 15 times at least. It was a bear. Back in the day, you get some rope with some beeswax, or I don't know. They had the process down though, I'll tell you that. Trying to do it with today's materials, it wasn't working as good. It was not. Okay, GAV color, spring. I'll set that up here so I can forget about it. Did the gasket stay on the intake? It did. We'll leave it. That's a victory. I'm going to not put this bolt and washer right next to the open spark lighter hole. There we go. Let's go over to a bench. Oh, we got our new performance intake for it. Nope, just kidding. Hello? Oh, you can hear the ocean. Put that over here. Sure, don't know what that is. Okay, so Model A's had a few different fuel making happeners. The Zenith, the Marvel, the Tillotson. This is the Tillotson Model X. Yes, sir. They all make fuel happen. You know what I mean? Some say some are better than, I don't know, all right? We're gonna crack this open though and just see if we can clean it up. I gotta find some tools around here. Looks like a 7/16. Oh, I got my standard screwdriver we got in the cab. Moses sandals. So I did get this apart, and it was full of crud, rust, varnish fuel, what we expected. And unfortunately, my worst fear came true. When I knocked that apart, unfortunately, this gasket just got completely wrecked in multiple areas. I don't have another gasket, but I thought ahead for once and figured this was probably going to happen, and did even better than just getting a rebuild kit. I reached out to a good friend of mine, Paul Shinn. He's a Model A enthusiast and expert. In fact, we put Model A together, where was that? Detroit. And that was a lot of fun. Had a really great time with him, learned a lot. Reached out to him and said, hey, can you help me out? Can you send me a rebuilt fuel make it happener? And he sent a brand new one. And not only that, but his note here says, tested and adjusted September of 24. So he put this on his Sport Coupe, ran it, made sure it was going to work, verified it, and sent it over. He even has a new gasket. So that's going to solve that problem. I have no doubt that's going to work. But we're going to have to go see what the fuel tank has to offer us. I don't want to run a bunch of bad gas and crud through this. Then we'll really be down a creek with 2 pine trees. Yeah. So under the dash here, this is going to be the fuel shutoff, kind of pretty much in the center here. And down is on. It's been off, which is good. I'm going to do that for a second. 1, 2, 12, yellow. Good enough. Let's go out and see if we had any fuel running when I did that, because there's definitely something in that tank. In fact, the fuel gauge is working. It says a quarter. You know, it's pretty cool. Oh wow, definite fuelage. Yeah, quite a bit. So let me try to find a drain pan or something. I don't want to mess this floor up. We'll slide that under here, and then I think I'm just going to drain it. I'll just let it run and we can watch and see what's coming out. And even better, if the pan is clean enough, we can see if there's any sediment and stuff coming out too. There's that fuel. It's definitely varnished. You can see how orange and yellow it is. But I'm not catching any rust chunks. We might be in luck. That would be incredible. I don't think I've ever got one in A sitting that long that this bad boy wasn't just full of rust chunks, but we got a ways to go. It might just be at the bottom. Well, it's finished draining. We can pull this out and see what we got. Ooh, orange juice. Good time to wash my hands. So, oh, yep. Good parts cleaner bin. I think I'm going to throw that Tillotson in here actually, and I can wipe up the floor. But good news is I'm not seeing a bunch of rust or pieces or barnacles or Legos or a snake tail. Anyway, I think the fuel tank's good, which is fantastic news. That is a big hurdle we don't have to try to jump over and or run through. Got a couple errands I need to do to keep this thing moving along. One of the big things is tires and tubes. I'm actually going to pop all these off. Got tires here sent ahead. We're going to run it down to a motorcycle shop, and they're going to spoon these on for us and get the new tubes in it so we have some good rubber in there. Got to pick up some fuel as well. The tank looks pretty good, but I want to put some fresh fuel in there and make sure to flush it out and just see if there's anything settled on the bottom there. And then we'll crack that sediment bowl open too and see if something's going on there. So let me get some tools, some jacks and jack stands. We'll lift this thing up. Well, actually, there's a lift right here. I guess we could just put it on that, dance her up, and blow the tires off and get them down to a shop. Well, the guy's got the old battery out, and I found a date on here. There wasn't one up here stamped, but on the actual thing that goes to the parts store, it says June 5th, 2002. So this is obviously going to be better than Elvis. So we're going to plop a new one in, and those go under the floorboard right here, right in there. and it's a positive ground. So, oh, house. We'll clean that up a little bit, drop in a new lightning cube, and I want to see if we can get the starter to work. And I think it's time we push all of the WD-40 out we shot down into the cylinders earlier and start verifying some of this stuff. And then I'm gonna have to figure out what to do without the key, which essentially is just juicing up the coil. But we're gonna need that here pretty soon if we're gonna be testalizing on the sparkles.
Kind of hard to squeeze these in without just dropping them like that. Look, got some battery acid on my hand, I'll tell you that much right now. Corner clamps, keep that in place. Arm these down. She sparkled a little bit at me. Get a socket for that one.
Okay, the battery is in, tied down, ready to rock. Now we can see if this thing turns over, and I can actually just come out here. The foot pedal inside just pushes this rod and makes contact. So if I grab this and just pull it down, theoretically, it should engage the starter and turn the engine over. So let's see what happens here. Yep, there it goes. Nice. There, that's better. Very good. Now let's stick a camera down in here. Nothing's coming out, so it's probably gone past the rings at this point. But we could stick a camera down in there so we can really scan the peeps on it and see if we got any debris or anything like that in there that we want to try to take care of before we jam some sparkulators back in and try to get this thing to fire. El numero uno. Got her jammed in there. And might be a little bit difficult to see, but we do definitely have some vertical scarring in there. And I think this was probably, well, I don't know yet, but most likely, there you go. There's a really good view of it. The reason it was pretty tight and sluggish trying to turn over there. Let's go down the row. That piston's on the top. Probably not going to be able to see much on that one. Good view of the piston. Pretty pitted. Pretty pitted. Evidence of moisture there. Three. Pitted again. That's moisture droplets on the cylinder wall. I wouldn't worry about that. Ooh, there's a good view. Oh, look at that crosshatch. Wow. Look up in this corner. That's crosshatching. That would suggest fresh or not worn, but oddly very, yeah, look at that. I didn't see any crosshatching in any other one but this one. That's kind of interesting. Let's go back to this one again. No crosshatch, just vertical. Anyway, it all looks pretty good. There's not a lot of huge buildup in there or anything like that to be concerned about, so I think we can keep cranking on this thing. I will drop the Earls out of it if and when we hear the thing fire. So, we're going to assume we have compression. I hear wind blowing out. It's cranking over. The starter works. The engine's obviously not stuck. We know we got a fuel make it happener. We'll flush this out here in a little bit. I think let's move on and we can go ahead and set the timing on this and just make sure, I guess, or verify the timing. You can pull this off. That could be cleaned up just a little bit. So here's our points or contacts, obviously. So we crank this once well, probably gonna have to go hot wire the ignition too. Keep forgetting about that, but let's just make sure we can get this on top dead center first, and then get this kind of put together. Make sure our rotor is pointing at our number 1 the way we want it, and then we'll move on to hot wiring this thing and make sure we got sparkles. So earlier I mentioned I wish that the timing process was similar in some of the, we call them late model now I guess, but the more modernish V8s and whatever, straight 6s, whatever you want to be. But Ford had a pretty neat little invention here. This goes in right here. You unscrew it, and then we turn this around. And what we do is stick this right in there, and we rotate the engine, and when it hits top dead center, this is going to drop in. There's a small indentation on the gear that this drops into. So when you see this drop in, boop, you're now at top dead center. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then you can also verify just by looking in there, of course. But we'll go ahead and do that process now, and it's very obvious when it happens. We don't have any sparkulators in, obviously, so I could just spin this over by hand. But it is nice to have, there's a crank wrench you can get in there and slowly turn it, but we should be able to go by hand. Okay, so stick this in here. I'm gonna grab the fan and just push the fan. Right there, see that? Out, in, out, in. And we'll rock it back and forth. And right there feels like top dead center according to this pin. Now we could jam our El Cheapo Potato 500 digital camera, and we'll just verify it. I should also jam the camera in this hole really quick and just look at the gear. This cover comes off. Maybe we'll do that instead. Just to make sure that's not going to shrapnel and send junk through the motor. There we go. So sure enough, it was top dead center. If I rotate it back and forth, we could see that go down, up and down. So right there is where we want to be. Timing is pretty, I don't want to say critical, but it's pretty darn important with these. We start them fully retarded, and then you add advance by pulling on the lever. So we want to make sure that TDC is correct, because if you go full lever on the steering wheel, you could throw way too much timing into this thing and knock the Babbitt bearings out of this. These have a poured bearing. And if you remember the one we got in Iowa and tried to drive home, those bearings were completely roached. And typically it's from being overdriven or driving them with the incorrect timing. And they do wear, obviously, but those are usually the reasons. So we got her on TDC. That looks fine. I think before we get back up into this, let's go ahead and knock that off and take a look at the gear. Got that thing tuned. Timing gear cover is off, and unfortunately I don't have a lot of great news. We do have evidence. We got a busted tooth there. This one's right behind it. And these are designed that way. You can see it's kind of a weird fibery material, composite or something. Ford did that so that gear would break before everything else, right? So it's doing what it's supposed to do, and chances are this was stuck against the other side, and when we cracked her free, it could have pulled that off. Now we do have it on top dead center, but I am going to roll the motor now that I see evidence of that, just to see what else we have going on. See, that one's in pretty bad shape too. Yeah, this gear. Oof, she's pretty rough, fellers and fellettes. Will it make it through a parade? Yes. Would I drive home on that? No, it needs swapped. So I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that and just put this back on. But now we know it does need a timing gear at some point very soon in the future. Okay, guys, got all this verified. We can tell the timing's all the way retarded by where this cam is on here. And of course we used the pin, found top dead center, verified it, and I also just double checked that the points are just opening, which those need filed terribly bad. And then we can see here that this is pointing right at the correct pin, essentially, or post. That's going to fire the number 1 there. We can go in and clean these up a little bit, and we're going to clean this up a little bit now. And then we got to hot wire this thing and make sure we're getting power to the coil, and she's shooting lightning. We can start putting this back together. So I believe this is the original pop-out ignition. And all that means is when you would put a key in, and I tried to jimmy this one, but you would turn the key and this button would pop out. And that activates the ignition, obviously. A lot of people just modify these and turn into a simple on-off switch, but I believe that's the original pop-out. I don't want to mess this up. So what I'm going to do is take this off, pull it back, or get behind the dash here. And I think we're just going to disconnect this, and we're going to have to put in a simple toggle switch for now. The feller that had this can't find the key for this. So that'll have to eventually be swapped. But for now, we could just run her on a toggle or 2 spoons we tie together or something. We just need to get the ignition fired. By the way, that is actually working. It's at 0 now. It was at quarter before we drained it. That is really cool. I don't think out of any of my A's that works. I'm gonna clean this up a tickle before I start rolling around in here. Boy, the mice really hauled the seeds in. But somehow didn't get the material. Well, I do have that ignition out. These are my 2 wires here. So if these made contact, boom, we should have hot ignition. I don't really have any good options. I forgot that the dash wasn't hollow behind there. So I'm gonna put the old pop out in the vise and see if maybe I could drill it and kind of coax it into working. If not, we might have to just hang these wires out, unfortunately, with a little switch. It's gonna look tacky, but is it gonna let it fire up? That's what we need. I think so. Okay, Operation Mess the Ignition Up is underway. Need one small, smaller, smaller. Bits. Oh, ooh, maybe. No, no. Bits. No, no. Bits. No, no, no. We want to get those little brass tumble dooskies out of there. Okay, where'd that little screwdriver go? Miniature screwdriver, where you at? Well, we have success. We can use a screwdriver as a key, so everything is status quo on this build so far. Once you get it drilled, you'll see these copper pieces here, or brass, and once you get all those out, the tumbler will still turn, but the secret is to drill it just enough to retain the tumbler but get those pins out. Now, I verified this by running the digital meter, swanged her over to the horseshoe mode, and this one actually beeps. So I can hold it here, it's open. When I turn it, this closes. So now we're good to put this back in the car. So at a glance, it's gonna look a ridge. But then you just start it with a screwdriver. Well, I guess turn the ignition on. You start it with the old footus. Got this through the plate and back on. Now I'm just wiring it back up. 2 little screws that I hope not to drop because I'll never find them. Go on here. Oh, come on now. Come on now. There we go. The old hand-eye coordination is just going away. That should do it. That, and then this on, off. Yes. Well, it got her all together, and I was just testing spark here, and we do not have it. I even dropped a sparkulator in and made a gap and wasn't coming through. So I've got to go back into my switch and make sure that we're getting power to the lightning whirler here. I filed the points and everything as well. Need to do a little bit better job, but right now, no spark issue. This should be the wire right there. I get the meter. Let's see. We got no voltage in here at all. 0.7. That's kind of a weird number. Well, that's got to be the issue. So how do I rectify that? Where is that going? I don't know. I have to trace that wire and see why we're not getting any power in here. All right, wire tracing. So I've started at the starter because that's where it jumps off, goes to the junction block on the firewall, and then comes into here. So we've got power on this line. I got my 6 volts, but when I turn the key on, this drops to 0.7 and this drops to 0.7. So this switch is faulty, and I've rotated it in all directions just to make sure that I'm not going past or anything like that. But this doesn't seem to be working. I'm going to try to get a plier in there and pop it out and see if that does it. But right now I think our issue is just a switch. Probably have to go back to just a simple toggle switch like we were planning earlier, and boy, we would have saved a lot of time. Okay, so making our own switch out of a vice grips, of course. Got them jammed together. Now when we come out here and look, and I crank this over, watch the contacts there. Lots of spark. So we are good to go. Spark issue was in fact that switch. Hey, we've got a switch. So Brian had one laying around, and I drilled the holes and tried to thread them with a screw, because these fittings, if I were to cut this, I wouldn't have enough wire to put a different style fitting on. And I've never done this before, and it worked fantastic. Yep, I pop riveted those right on there. And then of course I had to put marker on so we know what's off. Tested it, it works. So ignition off. Pretty simple, straightforward. Now we can go back out and put together our ignition system. Well, we're back fully assembled, well, minus the air cleaner filter system thing. You know, we're gonna leave that off for now. The ignition's done. Boy, these got hammered in the boxes. All the gaps were completely closed, so be sure to check them, you know, and by check them, you just look at them and, yep, gapped. So, splayed them out, got them jammed in. This is that Zenith, and we're gonna leave all the adjustments alone. We've got some fuel in here, fresh fuel is in. I'm going to turn it on, make sure the needle isn't stuck in shipping. That would be very obvious. Then I'm going to run you guys through the process of how to start a Model A. And there's kind of a handshake you got to learn. And we're going to see if this one will fire up after, I think we're thinking 22 years, something like that. Okay, let's see if we can get this fired. Neutral, normally you'd have the brake on, but we're up in the air. Fuel is on or down. Now the gav here, what we want to do, it's fully closed, so we're going to go back 3/4 turn, about there. So if it's cold, you want to richen it up a little bit. If you pull that, that's the choke, which we're going to be doing in a minute. We're going to flip the ignition on. There we go. Now, I'm going to pull the choke. We're going to let it go 2-3 revolutions, drop the choke in, and it should hopefully fire or do something. Hook the battery up as well. By the way, spark was all the way up, full retard. We're going to bring that down about halfway. Give it a little throttle. Unbelievable. These old Fords were so reliable, easy to work on. Henry did a good job. You got to remember, farmers and everybody like that, this was their jam. Had to be quick, easy, affordable. I think the wiper was going. Let's let it idle a minute. We can see it's running pretty rich, so we'll come in here. We're going to lean that up. A little bit of an exhaust leak, no big deal. There, it's starting to clean up now. Well, the old Model A is alive. Man, that fired right off. And honestly, that's typically the case with Model A's. If you're cranking any more than that, it's usually low compression, especially when you've gone through the ignition like we did. And we know that we had to work at fuel make it happen. It sounds pretty good, but it's been a couple decades. It needs to idle and run and be put through the paces. I don't have any juice in it yet. We haven't got that far. We still got to figure out what we're going to do with the water pump, if the rad even holds water. Brakes, we think we're pretty good. We got to figure out a clutch. We get the tires back tomorrow from the tire shop. Still have to change the oil. And then what I'm really looking forward to is cleaning this thing up. I think it's going to look absolutely fantastic. This paint, I've got a lot of hope for it. We'll probably buffalate it, but it's been a great day. A lot of progress. I'm going to call it for tonight, get cleaned up, go eat some groceries, wet the back neck a little bit. We'll see you guys in the morning. We'll try to finish up this A in time for that Christmas parade. Well, good morning. Day 2 on the 29 Ford Model A. Today is the last day I have to work on this rig. We've got to get it completely finished. Right away tomorrow morning, I want to participate in a toy drive for children with the Children's Hospital and a local charity here. And then later that afternoon is the holiday parade. So I really don't have time to tinker on it tomorrow. I've got to get everything done today, but we had an awesome day yesterday. It runs first and foremost. The brakes, I think, are probably going to work. They're all mechanical, but we still have to go through the water pump packing, if the radiator is going to hold any juice in the thing, if it's going to overheat, does the clutch work? And obviously, it needs a little spit shining. Sounds easy, but there's a lot of crevasses and edges and things like that. I can't get the spare tires off. Just to clean and buff alone is going to be some time. So let's jump right back in. I'm going to fill this thing with water, change the oil, fire it back up, and I just want to let it sit here and run and chew on things and let all the gaskets and rings and everything come back around. Let's start underneath and get this old dinosaur juice out. Driving all day long. Oh yeah, still just me. Okay, you gotta be careful here because the female side is pressed into the pan, I believe, and you can spin it. This one came loose. Oh yeah. Definitely time for a change. Let that drain out. I'll go grab the fresh stuff, get it set aside. So this is kind of interesting. After I drained that oil, I realized here, if this is a 29, I believe that's a different oil pan or a newer oil pan, maybe a 30, or maybe suggesting this whole car is a 30. I believe the early 28s and up until early 29s had a big clean out in here. And they did away with that and replaced it with just a drain plug pan. Now, this could be a late build 29, of course, but just another thing to think about is that pan suggests this is definitely a late 29 or a 30. Now let's get up top and pour some oil back in her. So the Model A oiling system is pretty unique, or I should say just different than what you're traditionally used to in our classic cars and hot rods and whatnot. It's not a pressurized oiling system. There is a pump, of course, but it just brings the oil up, and essentially that oil just runs through a trough and drips down onto the bearings. When all that oil gets to the bottom, there's a little shaft. It rides down to the front of the motor, and the process begins again, essentially. So the reason I bring that up is if we run too thick of oil, you know, most people assume let's run 2050 in it because it's an old motor. Well, you may not drip enough oil because of the thickness of the oil, and you don't get enough lubrication to the engine. On the other side, if you run too thin of oil, you might not be getting the lubrication you need. So I like to run just a 1030, just a traditional 1030 in these. Probably is about as close as you're going to get to what they used to run back in the day. Brand, anything's better than what they were putting out in 1929. Let's be honest. There we go. Excited to get this thing fired up again. We'll throw the garden hose in it. It's also not a pressurized cooling system, so we don't have to worry about hoses exploding or anything like that, but we want to try to manage the drips. The water pump should weep or drip slightly, and I'll show you something with that here. My buddy Paul just taught me. By the way, if you like the Model A stuff, you've got to check out Paul's content. He's got how-tos, DIYs, technical, fun stuff, repairs, all sorts. And he's got some really cool guests on his content as well. Okay, so come on now. There we go. Clean this up and I'll show you a couple things I was talking about. So the oil pump is run underneath the lightning whirler, essentially. Brings the oil up, it drips down through the engine, it takes a ride through this guy, back, and it starts all over again. And again, that's a non-pressurized system. Now if we look at the water pump here, you notice how the bottom is cut out. I originally thought maybe that's just for, I don't know, savings on manufacturing, less material or anti-vibration or some sort of special reason for this. Turns out the answer is the simplest one. They did it this way because these actually do weep a little bit and it lubricates the shaft and your packing, and the bottom is missing so that water can drip out and escape. Okay, so this will drip a little bit, but it shouldn't be gushing. We are going to lubricate this, and by the way, I've already lubricated the lightning whirler. A little bit of oil in there. And that's one of the reasons these have these drip trays, is you have water and oil and maybe fuel. Basically anything and everything is going to drip down these, and you know, back in the day it would just recycle into the earth. But oil is in. We'll cap this off. Let's get this filled up, fire it back up today. The best thing for this is just going to be sitting here running for a while. Fixing to make a mess here. I think that hose is leaking. Oh wow, that doesn't seem normal. What in the devil? Guess we'll try to find a mop next. For Pete's sake. Pit cock's open. So it was drained. So I got to close that and we'll try again here. Okay. Try again. Oh, we got a bad leak. What is that? Oh, that might just be the overflow. And I do want to add some antifreeze into it, so let's stop there. Whew. Wow. really making a mess. Sorry, Brian. Oops. Hindsight being binoculars. Guess I could have just dumped this out and then filled the jug. There you go, drink up. Well, so far I don't see it leaking out anywhere. Knowing that someone drained this is excellent news. If it was completely empty and that petcock was closed, we might be sitting here going, oh, that's not good. I'm gonna have to get a air hose in there, blow out the water that's sitting at the bottom of the rad so we can determine if it's existing stuff I've spilt or if we have something new, because it is trickling off the car right now. Okay, I'm gonna trade my mechanic's uniform for a janitor uniform, go find a mop, clean up the 47,000 gallons of dirt water, and then we'll be right back. So unfortunately, we do have a leak. And I can't even really see what the issue is. It's so tight in there. I used an air hose and blew all the water out of that front tray just to confirm it was leaking, and sure enough, the guy's coffee cup is taking a hit right now. So I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do there. We might have to pull this whole radiator out to investigate that further. I don't think the hose is gonna have a pinhole in it, so I'm wondering if this part of the rad is rotted out or something there. Well, that's not good. We definitely have a leak. And I was able to track it down by using forced air, by cleaning the area and then seeing if it would well back up. Started at the bottom, you could see it puddling, and then worked up. And you can kind of see the area through there. Look at the corrosion, it's kind of a green color. This was hidden behind the plate, by the way. It's kind of green there. And on the back side, you can see rust. Right there, we've got some tubes leaking, and it's running down to the bottom of the rad. This was also a leak. I was able to fix that just by cranking on that hose clamp significantly tighter, and that seemed to resolve that. But now we are in a bad jam. Could we maybe nurse it through dripping like that? Yeah, but not very cool to do on a parade. And if it sits while we're trying to do a toy drive, it's going to leak everywhere. So, fortunately, not drivable in this situation. And luckily, Model A radiators are really easy to find. Well, even though the radiator's leaking, we're going to make some calls, see if we could find something. Unlikely, very. But nonetheless, we're going to charge forward. So I'm going to fire this thing up. I still want it to run longer. And we got to make sure the head gasket's going to come around and get these rings seated. I'm not sure if radiator in a bottle is going to work, because again, this is a non-pressurized system, so it would be flowing through it, but typically I think how that stuff is made is high heat and then pressure forcing it through the leak essentially, and then it starts to constrict that and bonds and binds and does the thing. And I could crack an egg and throw some pepper in here and a couple tubes of RTV and some sawdust and a chunk of a belt, but I don't know if that's going to do anything. But let's try to get this fired today. It should do the same as yesterday, right? Theoretically. Battery hot. Timing all the way up. Gonna bring the throttle to where the pedal just barely moves. We're going to open the gav, about 3/4 of a turn. Ignition on, pull the choke. There you go. Close the gav a little bit, give it some timing. Gonna let it sit here and purr. Oh, I took a little too much timing out of it. Oh, I forgot to turn the fuel on. That's my fault. There we go. All right. Well, the great news is the water pump looks fine, but the fan is drawing out more moisture from that leak. Runs good. So I took my theory on how these products worked, and I actually called Blue Devil, which is one of my favorite fixes on the roads, and was able to confirm with tech support, this is good information, fellers and fellettes. These head gasket or radiator in a bottle repair goops, snake oils if you will, absolutely do rely on pressured systems to work. So they basically hunt out the leak. When the system gets pressurized, that product gets forced to that leak and starts mending and closing up that area. So it doesn't matter what we pour in this. Any of the old timer fixes and stuff like that, it's going to do nothing but clog this cooling system up. So, friend of a friend's, uncle's friend's, nephew's, best friend's, wife's, husband's best friend that knows my friend here has a 28 Coupe out in the parts pile, and they're going to run over and see if it has something that's viable. We're calling all the rad shops in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. No luck. It's a kind of a dying art. So we might just have to run this thing and just keep dumping water in. Carry a few jugs and a rumble seat or something. Maybe we'll get lucky. We'll see. We'll stand by and see what happens with that. Hey, look what we found. So, nice little two-door. Aha! There we go. It's been repaired. We are going to test this. My friend Brian has a smoke machine. So we're going to smoke this thing out and see if it's worth going through the trouble of removing it. And hopefully it's good, because this is really our only option close by. There's what it looks like without the head. So look at this little thing. Smoke leak detector 9000. We got it jammed in there. We got a rag up here. It's starting to come out. We're going to let it build up some more pressure, and we should be able to see if there's a leak anywhere. Again, we got a repair there. It's probably when they took the head off, but we'll see what happens here. Well, we're all jumping in trying to get this out quick. We got top strut rod, support rod. There's 2 bolts on each side that holds this fascia on. There'll be a bolt on the bottom corners, and we'll probably have to pull the headlights down and out of the way. And then we can rock this forward, get the hood off, and eventually get this out. It tested fine with smoke. It doesn't look the prettiest, but we could change that with some Rebuild black and some elbow grease. We're back in the shop. We got our Radiator. Big thanks to Tim Taylor. That's actually his name. This came out of his little yard art car there. We're going to get him back with a good Radiator and trade for this one. So we smoke tested it. That went well, despite it's pretty goobered up, but this was made in October of 29. So this is actually more period correct. Or is period correct for our unit over here. We got a repair to make. This is coming off. It's already been JB welded. I'm going to try to wire brush this a little bit, stick this together, and we got some adhesive, some 2-part epoxy. We'll try to stick this on. This holds on the surrounding. The structure is actually bolted through the side, so it's not right here. It's not super critical, but we might as well try to fix it now while we have it out. Just trying to give this something good to bond to. We might as well run around this and clean it up a little bit. We're going to completely rebuild this. And by rebuild, of course, I made a little bit of you want to breathe in all that rust, and lead, and stuff like that. Get her in good. Nice, looking good. Well, we got the Radiator out. Had to use some help here and there. It was kind of a fight. We gently kind of took this apart as little as possible just to kind of speed it up. We're running out of time. We have this evening to get this car completely dolled up, polished, on tires and wheels, running, driving, not leaking for tomorrow morning. We have a little ways to go. So this unit, we found out apparently during the original restoration, someone jammed a screwdriver through it multiple times trying to get the old hose off, and then they just caked on JB Weld to try to fix that. So this was a mess anyway. I don't think we're really losing much there. Waiting for this to dry. I got to read the constructions on that, but I got this kind of glued up. I'm going to try to find some paint, fog this down. I blew it out with air, and we already smoke tested it, so hopefully this is not going to pour water once we put this one back in here shortly. Then we can put it all together. This is that period correct add-on instead of a typical cap, which would be pretty much this bottom part. You just throw this gasket on and then screw this whole thing down, and then that actually lifts up like that. And again, it's not a pressurized system, so there's no gasket on the top side there, but we're slowly getting there. Still optimistic we're gonna make it. Oh boy. It's scramble time. Friends have been jumping in helping. We've got the rear tires on. And went with these nice white walls. Kind of a old school looking tread on them. We've got fronts obviously, but I've been dancing around this, working on the Radiator. That is finally in. Very close, but not exact. But nonetheless, it's full of water right now. It's not dumping anything. It's not leaking. That smoke test really worked well. I'm probably going to have to pick up one of them machines, and you can check vacuum leaks and all sorts of things. Got anxious, wanted to do a little bit of a test, so I hit this with some spray-away and quad zero steel wool. And look at that. Nice reflection. This thing is going to clean up beautiful. I forgot to paint this before we put it in. I got anxious because we got that glue drying in here. But we'll tape this off and spray it down, probably last step. Right now what I've got to do is get the front tires on this thing, get the hood bolted back on, push this outside quick. We've got to wash this. We'll hit it with the pressure washer. And then I've got to treat this roof and start trying to polish some of this paint. Probably not going to get to all of it. Well, the guy's got everything greased up, steering column, water pump, generator's been oiled, lightning whirler's been oiled, air cleaner was cleaned, put back on, radiator fits, everything is great there. Had to fight a little bit, it was a little bit different, but we got that taken care of. Hood is fitting beautifully, and I just used the same measurement as the last one. Wow. Look at that. So we are ready to pull this thing out and finally hit it with some water and see what's underneath this 29 Ford. We got her outside. The clutch works. Actually, it's really buttery. Throwing on a cleaner right now. I'm probably going to do this 2-3 times. I'm going to hit it with the pressure washer here in a minute. I am really excited. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this moment. And if you're wondering why we didn't clean it first, well, we didn't want to put 3 hours into detailing this if it didn't even run or move. And light dust, if you run your finger through it, it's going to scratch a paint. A heavy coating like this most likely protected it. So that's good too, working on it. Let's fire up the washer. See what this thing looks like. Well, we got her back in the shop. I started doing some test spots on buffing, and wow, was this paint coming around. Look at this fender. It might actually be lacquer now that I'm in it, and there's evidence that it's been buffed many, many, many times since it was painted, see? That's brown oxide primer coming through, and it's also on all of the edges and ridges. It's been cut through. So it's not perfect paint, which actually makes me feel better because shiny paint scares me, but now we can really just dig in on this. And I'm working over here. Here's before. Here's after. And that's just, I don't know what that is. Some used pad and some El Cheapo stuff. And here's another fender example. Man, it's going to come around. I can't get every single nook and crevasse in this whole thing, but we're going to do what we can with the time we have. I'll work late tonight and just keep polishing. Here's the hood before. Here's the hood after. Those pimples you're seeing is the paint coming unsettled and the primer coming through. But from back here, right? I know. So I'm gonna keep working away, just polishing, elbow grease, cleaning, scrubbing, rubbing. You're not missing anything. And I'll be back with you soon. We're gonna crank up the Christmas music, wet the back neck, and just have a bunch of fun here. And thanks to everybody helping. Everyone's jumping in. Watch this, dull, dirty wheel. Be a lot to clean all this by hand. Shine juice in a can. Get the spokes. Get the hub. That easy.
Oh, yeah, holy fair.
Looks beautiful. Protects the wheel. Very easy. Tim's gonna give her a rip. We're going right over dirt, drum brake dust, grime.
Man, that's unbelievable.
You can get the stainless. You go right over that. That's fine.
Look at that. Isn't that wild?
Oh man, that's a lot easier than cleaning them by hand. This car is coming around. Look at this. We got to do quarter panels, deck lid still. All the black fenders are done. I've been scrubbing away on this trunk back here, and I think I got that looking pretty good. Okay, so we're running out of time. I have decided to throw the towel in on buffing, and we are going to just shine juice this thing. This is what this is for. You need to go to a car show quick, you got to run to town, you got to do something fast, you don't have the time to buff it or paint it or clear coat it. Just shine juice it. And you tell me if you see the difference. Say that's a little faster. So I'm gonna keep working, juice her up. And I don't have to worry if I get it on this. I don't have to worry if I get it on the running board and rebuild it. I can put it on the tire cover. Oh wow, that looks really good. Tim just rebuilt this Radiator completely. We happen to have some rebuild black in the house. That looks great. I think we are darn near there. Whoops, we gotta put new bumper brackets on. There we go. Oh, you already got this one.
I did. I halfway did.
I think, by golly, we're gonna make the parade. morning. It's parade day, but more importantly, we're getting ready to go to a toy drive. We're doing something for the Children's Hospital, and we got a bunch of people coming in. It's going to be a cruise in. Folks are coming from hours away, different states, and we're compiling a bunch of unwrapped gifts and trying to make the holidays special for all the kids that we can. Car is looking fantastic. Even got a cute little wreath on there with some lights. It is raining today, but it's more of a mist or drizzle, and we think it's supposed to burn off. Might hinder us a little bit, but it don't scare us. That's why we don't always have shiny stuff, right? We're gonna swing in and get some gas. Hope this thing cruises. Cooling system is holding water, no leaks, no issues there. It's charging, and I think we're good to go. We'll find out. Let's jump in this thing, go for a maiden voyage. 22 years this thing sat in that shed. Let's go find a fuel station. We're gonna go to the Blue Whale, legendary Blue Whale, right off of Route 66. That's where we're meeting up. We're gonna hand out coffee, donuts, get a bunch of people together and see if we can fill a couple trucks full of toys. It's gonna be a good time. All right, we are off. Got to pull some timing into it. Just kind of letting it warm up. These are non-synchro transmissions, but this one's buttery. Clutch is working great. Grab third. Oh, off we go. Now it sounds like it's gonna quit, but it won't. These are stump pullers. They make a lot of torque and it's all at the bottom end. They don't like revving up. Think of it like a tractor. We're basically driving a tractor. Brakes, they're there. Not bad for an A. Here we go. Boom. I love Model A's. There's so much credit we need to give to the Model T and the Model A's. They absolutely changed the direction of automobiles, and we wouldn't be where we're at today with cars and trucks if it wasn't for Henry Ford. We have to give them that. And Lewis Chevrolet and a couple other. Well, see, there's that synchro. I'm not gonna be able to get it. I got the driver's side headlight working. We got a tail light. Everything's good. We just don't want to run out of gas. Adjusting the gab a little bit. She's running a little rich. And now we shouldn't have to touch that now that it's warmed up. It's so fun driving these. It really forces you to just live in the moment. You're not going fast. Why are we always in such a hurry anyway? You know what I mean? You're driving 30, 35, but it really resets you and just puts you back, makes you think about the old days. This runs really good, really good. It's comfortable. There's a weird vibration. Not sure. Anyway, let's go fill this thing up. Ah! Almost got rammed. See what I did there? It was a Dodge Ram. Anyway, let's go fill this thing up. We gotta go find the Blue Whale on Route 66. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I hope we can raise a pile of toys for the kids. See what happens here. Made her to the fuel station. Gonna throw some fuel in. Fun fact, these don't care what you put in for fuel. They'll run on vodka, literally. So we'll just throw some 87 in, fill it up. It's running good. I got a little bit of a belt squeal going on here, so I'm gonna investigate that. But otherwise, everything else is good.
Okay, we are in parade mode.
Great time.
Great time. I got my buddy Coy with me. You want to hit the fuel?
Hit the fuel.
Yeah. Teaching him how to operate a Model A. He's gonna be my candy thrower.
Are you get it, Bill?
There we go. So we are in Catoosa, Oklahoma. I thought this parade would be a lot smaller, but it is actually pretty large. You know how many people live here, bud? It's a large parade for a smaller town.
I think the population went up because you're here.
Oh, so the population went up because vice versa. Yeah. But we got a bunch of friends with us and stuff. Some nice pickup trucks and a panel truck.
Yeah, you can open this.
I got my hands.
I can open it.
Boom.
I'm too weak.
There you go. So let's go do a parade. This is going to be a lot of fun. And he's going to be pitching candy. He'll be meeting some folks, hanging out. So far, the car is running really good. My first candy cane of the year.
Really?
Yeah, these little guys. So I have to say the toy drive was absolutely phenomenal. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't expecting anything, I guess. I was just trying to do something nice and help support a toy drive. And man, y'all came from like South Dakota, Kansas, Texas, Missouri, all over the place. And our goal was to fill a truck bed. We filled four vehicles full of toys, and that's incredible. Thank you so much for helping. That's incredible. We also, someone pinstriped a toolbox, and we also raised $2,200 for that raffle, for that toolbox, and that's going to the Children's Hospital as well. So that's just incredible, and it was so fun meeting all you guys and seeing all your rigs and rides and everything else. Now we get the end of the day with a little parade here. This is going to be awesome. And looks like we're going to be moving here in just a minute. They're running on the main street down here. Been in a lot of parades in my life, but never right on historic Route 66. This is really cool. Having an awesome time. How's the candy cane?
Amazing.
Amazing. We got to save some candy for other people. What do you got, Dum
I
Dums?
only got one. Yeah.
I'll trade you for you got a cherry one? Well, we're back at the shop. We accomplished our goal. Parade complete. The Model A did absolutely fantastic. What was it, 3 days ago? This thing was sitting in a shed. 2 decades, more. We got her cleaned up, looking really good. People are loving the car. Went through the mechanicals. It's just been running absolutely flawless. I'd have to check the odometer. I did reset her back to 0. I got 25, 30 miles on it, I think, without a single issue. We went through 3 bags of candy there at the parade. Really awesome turnout. I love seeing how excited the kids are for the holidays. And speaking of which, think about this. Everyone loves December. Everyone treats each other so kind. Everyone is so nice, paying it forward, doing favors, helping each other. Why don't we do that year round? There's your challenge. There's your New Year's resolution. Treat each other like you do during December. Now, this is where I normally ask you fellers and fellas, what do we do with the rig? What do we got now? But in this case, I already know. This car has been here in Catoosa, Oklahoma for a very long time. It's rooted deep within this family. I can't go home with it. I'm going to take this car and we are going to take it right back where we got it, give it back to them, and just give them some instructions on how to use the rig. And they have promised they're going to run this thing through the parade every single year. We're going to get some ice cream, do this and that, and it's going to be in a heated and cooled garage. Thanks guys for watching. You guys are amazing. Thank you so very much. And hey, We'll see you very soon.